It gaff till a gaff. It gaff till a gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. I don't give a fuck. With the till a gaff. We ain't got no time for you haters. I do not respect anybody sitting behind a keyboard trying to belittle anybody, making them feel bad about themselves. You know that. So, it's the GGPLS. Try that one again. So, it's the GGPLS. This is a podcast for... But it ends with motherfuckers. Actually, I'm out on the road, so I ain't got my cards with me. And you don't know I'm not scripted on a good day, and I ain't got no script to me. The sound quality might be a little bit different because I'm not using my normal microphone and PC setup. I'm out on the road with my my handheld, my Tascam. So it's all good. But yo, I don't really want to have to return to the same topic. I never thought that was a great idea, although I know that it's kind of impossible not to do so. Oh, by the way, I don't have my alarm with me either, so God help y'all. You know what I mean? But I know it's not great to return to the same subject over and over again. But this is a kind of variation because I know I've been kind of going in on the way society's set up. And I made a podcast called The Power of Babel, based around the story of the Tower of Babel and the fact that, you know, the differing, try to get the word right, political views in the world now seem so polarized that even though people are speaking the same language, they have no basis or foundation whatsoever for understanding each other. And then this is another podcast I wanted to make a while ago, and I've been kind of prompted, so you know, you kind of get a bit of that idea of the date. I've had this idea for ages, probably before the Power of Babel, actually. But, you know, very recently, I think it was a G20 summit, must have been in Japan. Vladimir Putin reportedly said that liberalism was dead or something like that. And that's kind of freaky because, I suppose one of the political monikers I could take would be that of a liberal. I must admit, every time I've looked up liberalism or libertarianism, they seem to be extreme right-wing people. It's like the right-wing just claim everything. So this podcast really is called How the Left Was Lost. You know, it's like a take on how the West was won, like how the left was lost. Because I kind of alluded to some of this in The Power of Babel, but I wasn't very happy with that podcast. I'm hoping I do a better job, even though this has no script either. So there's every potential this would be waffle and not well thought out. I won't make my points as well as I want to, but I'm still going to give it a crack. So how the West was won? Well, this is how the left was lost. And I suppose if I get straight to the point, because knowing me, I'll forget my central theme if I don't get straight there. The left was lost for one real main reason. Basically, left-wing politics. Now, I'm saying as I understand it because, you know, politics goes through different meanings or maybe positions on the political scale over time. And I think this will actually come into play. If someone was a lot older than me, they might see this very differently. But I'm a child of the 70s, as in born in the 70s. So I saw left-wing politics very differently. My experience of left-wing politics was, it was really more about fighting against the institutions and the political setups, the arrangements, the old guard, the hierarchy, which basically kept some parts of society disadvantaged, is what I'm looking for. That's really how I understood left-wing politics. Now, you've heard me say this before, talking about things like, you know, me being an old socialist. You know, the whole idea of this type of mentality, of this political viewpoint, was about equality. It was about trying to find a way where everybody could experience equality, where everybody could experience the ability to have. Now, as I said, my political views have changed. I'm now more for equality of opportunity. shall we say, than I am for equality of material goods and circumstances, or material material goods. I don't think that you should just give somebody shit, because why? Well, because if people don't work for stuff, they not only do they not really deserve it, they don't appreciate it. And truly world economies won't grow if people aren't incentivized. That's one of the reasons that I moved away from the left-wing thinking, was really just the understanding that you have to incentivize people. And, if you take away the proper incentives, not the incentives that we've dreamt up because we're such a clever think tank and we're all psychologists and sociologists and we've decided how people should think, and this factors into this as well. But just to go in with the incentives that human beings already have. The fear of missing out, the fear of not having enough, those are really bigger drivers than the fear or the want, the pull of wanting to have more. So, if people are properly incentivized, so they could have comfort and they can have security if they work hard and produce more for society, then I think that's not a bad thing. What you want to allow is for equality of opportunity. So the ability to earn more, produce more, create more value, and therefore have more, isn't just in the hands of a chosen few, a predetermined chosen few, a few chosen by their race or their age or their sex or their family history or their location. You want to allow that potential to achieve those things to be spread out to everybody. So that was my understanding of left-wing politics. And as such, obviously starting off, as I said, from total self-interest, as somebody who would be called, as quotation marks, that's what I'm looking for now. I don't know. I would even say disadvantaged. I've never seen myself as disadvantaged. Minority, I suppose, is the word I've tried to find. We fight all against these things because it's a nonsense, But I suppose at some point in the UK, Black African Caribbean people were a minority of the population. And as such, we found it much harder to get access to the opportunities that I just mentioned. So, at first it was self-interest, and then in understanding how unfair it was to not be given the same access to those opportunities, I felt the same thing for other minority or disadvantaged groups who also had restriction of access, and that's really where the foundation of our politics came from. So, to me, from a moral standpoint, from a society standpoint, that version of left-wing politics made total sense. And with the greatest amount of respect, anything that fought against it was really just some version of entitlement. Because I really didn't see, for example, and I've had this a million times, if you used to ask what my politics are today, I would tell you my politics are meritocracy. I am a meritocrat. I think that we should even the playing field as much as possible, and then allow the people who work hard, study hard, learn, innovate, work smart, to create the most. Those activities will allow them to create the most, and by creating the most, they will then gain the most. And I ain't wrong. I ain't mad at anybody for gaining. You know what I mean? So I just think level the playing field as much as possible. We know the playing field is not level and can never be level. Do you know what I mean? I said that in the last one. But, we level it as much as possible. We take away all the blatant obstacles for people's entrance into any particular market, any particular job, any particular field. We take away as many obstacles as possible. We take away all the nepotism. We take away all the isms and schisms, all the racism, all the sexism, all the homophobism, all the Islamophobism. We take all that stuff away to the extent that we can, and allow anybody from any of those backgrounds to enter into the marketplace for whatever, and do their best and try to shine. And in doing their best and trying to shine, create more value and prosperity for humanity. So that to me was the idea. And I'm gonna do a quick digression, man. This might be the end of this podcast, but still, because I know that in the Power of Babel, I spoke a lot about the middle-aged white male, and I remembered listening back to that and thinking, damn, people must think I really hate that demographic. And I really don't. I really don't. I have a lot of middle-aged white male friends. Come on, man. I can't be racist. I got black friends. That sounds too black, innit? Of course I'm not racist. I have black friends. There's, what's your name? Winston? Gerald. Yes, Gerald. But no, for real though, man. Maybe there was a time, when I was younger, that would have been true, but that so is not true at this moment in time. The only frustration I have with that demographic and what's happening with popularism is just their divorcement, their willful divorcement from reality. I was thinking about this on the train up here today. It's like, look, basketball is a game, right? Those of you familiar with basketball. Well, there is a net. It's roughly about 6 feet in the air. And the aim of the game is to take the ball and put it into the net. Now, if you look at basketball matches pretty much anywhere in the world, other than a couple of guys, I don't know what the position is, but they tend to bring the ball up from their field to the opponents. Most of the guys are over 6 foot who play this game. If you have that kind of height, it's a natural advantage to playing in that game. So you go all around the world, and basketball is played all over the world, from Spain to Kazakhstan to Qatar to obviously very famous American NBA in England. Your average basketball player, the majority of them, will be over 6 foot. Now, when middle-aged white males try and tell me that they do not have any form of advantage in society, I'm on some Jordan Peterson shit. I shouldn't really call his name, because I must admit I've never really sat down and listened to a whole one of his interviews, but I do remember seeing a snippet where he was trying to go in on somebody and said that, you're talking about what advantage are you talking about? I don't have no advantage. Just ludicrous. It's literally like saying that you're all on a basketball pitch, but the 4'5" guy is equal and has equal opportunity to scoring to the 6 foot guy. It's just fucking nonsense. It's just nonsense. And the fact that intelligent people, university professors, will stand in front of audiences or go on videos and proclaim that kind of idiocy is just really offensive. You know what I mean? I know that you have a certain level of intelligence to have studied. I know you can study and be an idiot. There's a lot of people so smart they're stupid, but there is a kind of basic level of intelligence you have to study further and higher education and get qualifications. So you can't tell me that you can't not even take a step back from the world. It's just obvious, man. Now you can, like I said, not really engage with that fact. And I get that. Like I said last time, those guys will be like, I'm good. This shit doesn't affect me. I'm sure it exists, but it doesn't affect me on my day to day. So why am I fighting for it? And that's why I made the point that the people, again, the power of Babel, the people who are not affected by some kind of disadvantage, but fight for the people who are, to me, are the greatest heroes on earth. I don't expect you to give a fuck. I don't expect you to fight for the rights of other people. So if you do, then you have superseded my expectations, and now I have a lot of admiration for you. But what I do expect you to do is just understand the very basic, obvious realities of any given situation. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just as simple as that. And I find it highly offensive and an insult to my intelligence and an insult to intelligence of other people. And more offensive, just the fact that I know that deep down in your heart, you know that you're goddamn lying. And the reason they're lying, not because the reason they know they're lying, but the reason that they lie is they're trying to make a point, which they can make without lying. The point they're trying to make is we have problems too. And the reason I wanted to go in this first is because I know it sounds like when I do a whole hour podcast where the most repeated statement is, and because of the privilege of the middle-aged white male, it sounds like I'm saying that you guys, if you are in that category, have no problems in life and that everything for you is wonderful and hunky-dory. And I'm not saying that, because that's not true for anybody. everybody has problems. Everybody has personal problems, personal challenges, things to overcome. Every family has problems. So you might not have problems. There might be problems in your family. You could have sick relatives. You could have criminal relatives. You could have, all kinds of abuse. You could have narcissists in your family. Every family got problems. Then you add that to your wider community. You add in your friends, your work colleagues, your schooling alumni, the people who live in your neighborhood, wherever that is. Of course you have problems. No one's saying that you don't have problems. And unfortunately, it's kind of the ridiculousness of your level of privilege that you actually assume that just because somebody says that you're 6 foot, so it's easy for you to put the ball in the basketball net, means that we think that you don't have to train. And, I say that so importantly because we have that the other way around. Like, I've seen those kind of backhanded comments from sports commenters who have tried to say before he became nationally loved, so they had to stop dissing him, that Usain Bolt wasn't a great runner. He was just naturally gifted. And as you probably well know, they went in on Venus and Serena Williams for years, just accusing them of everything. Oh, they might win a lot, but they have no grace. They always say about black athletes. Oh, they win, but they have no grace. They said about Linford Christie. Oh, he may be fast, but he's got no grace. Look at the way he runs. He looks ugly. Yeah, but he wins. The aim of that sport is not to look pretty when you're running 100 meters. The aim of 100 meters is to pass that ticker tape first. With the nearest man to you, behind you. Then you won. So, you understand? But what that's what you hear. That's what sore losers say. They go, one of the worst examples of the sore losership I ever remember was when Frank Bruno lost to Mike Tyson. And I remember his wife at the time came on, grabbed the microphone in the ring and said, Tyson might have won the boxing match, but he's got nothing. Look at this. Everybody loves Frank Bruno. Everybody loves him. Like, that's not the aim of boxing. I shouldn't call anyone's wife a bitch. But you know what I mean? That's not the aim of boxing. The aim of boxing was to win on points or to knock that motherfucker out. That's the purpose of boxing. To either stop the fight, knock his ass out, or to be technically better than him so a group of judges judge that you won the bout. So the fact that you're more loved, you're in the wrong arena. You want to be more loved, put on a Santa Claus costume and go play Santa Claus and see, that's the environment for love. But in boxing, you're meant to win the bout. And he lost the bout. But people make up those kind of dumb excuses. So, like I said, man, I just want to take a moment to make that absolutely clear, because I was listening to something today. It was actually, I think it's the Rubin Report, and I kind of put myself through those things. I know what they are, but I don't want to be ignorant. That's what actually one of the whole points of this podcast. I don't want to be ignorant and just entrenched in my views, although I obviously am because I'm a human being. I'm also very opinionated and arrogant. But I like to listen to other people's viewpoints. That's one of the real aims of this podcast. So I can't remember exactly what the episode of the Rubin Report was. I could put it up if I really could be bothered. Let's see if I can be bothered. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember exactly. Oh, no, I probably can't now because I've moved on to some others now. I can't remember exactly what the episode of the Rubin Report was he had. But he was at the time of recording, because I don't record these. I don't record these podcasts. In any particular order. I don't release them in any order, and I don't listen to the podcasts I listen to in any order. So it could have been recorded at any point. But he was on tour, this Rubin motherfucker. Not Rick Rubin, because he's one of us. This other Rubin motherfucker. He was on tour with Jordan Peterson at the time, and there was a college professor, and I remember in the title something like, this woman's an anti-feminist or something like that. And she had some valid points. Like people always have some valid points, That's what I'm trying to say about being open-minded. It's not just because you believe something or you associate yourself with. And this is what I think the problem with identity politics is. You associate yourself with Brexit, Donald Trump, LGBT, black nationalism, save the whale, climate, climate extinction or, whatever that new climate rebellion. Now I don't listen to a word you say. That's the power of Babel. The fact that just by the way you identify yourself, I don't listen to a word you say. This guy from the Rubin Report tries to be smart and identify himself as something else. It's very clear what he is. Like, it's clear what I am. That's why in the Power of Babel, I said, fuck it. I'm just going to fail. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to, I'm trying to be more balanced today. That day I was like, oh, fuck it. It don't make no sense. I'm never going to bother. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to pretend really that, I can really see the other viewpoint, because I don't understand the viewpoint of people who don't believe everybody should have the right to a fair shot. That everybody should have a chance to do the best. Not just for the moral aspect of the fairness of it, but because it actually creates more for society. One of our best examples, and I've had one or two real examples of this. If you're listening, you know that you gave me these examples. My favorite, this is why I'm a meritocrat. My favorite examples of racism. Would you prefer your white male and or white female and or Aryan, whatever doctor? I was Aryan. I mean, like, Aryan political. If you had a Nazi Aryan political doctor, or an even more prominent example, if you were a Donald Trump supporter and there was a white doctor and or a Brexit supporter and there was a Polish doctor, and this doctor was proven to be 10 times more skillful than the indigenous counterpart, your white American counterpart, or your white English counterpart, or whatever, and you had to have an aneurysm removed from your brain, who would you choose? Now, the killer is, I can call no names, but this is amazing. I've been told of examples where people were so racist, they said, I don't want an Indian operating on me. They refused to be operated on by the more skillful doctor, and therefore they died. Now, to be honest with you, man, I shouldn't laugh at people dying. I'm laughing at the fact they died. I'm laughing at the fact that I actually admire their commitment to their political beliefs. I genuinely do. I admire their commitment to their political beliefs. But I think any other rational person who doesn't have a particular hate, and even if somebody who has a particular hate for a nation, human beings are survival machines. We are only programmed to not die. And having sex, propagating the species, is actually just part of that. That's all we're programmed to do. Really, in essence, is not die. And everything else is a bonus. So even if I hated your guts, if you had the skills to operate on me so I wasn't dead, it's not cowardice, it's common sense, it's reptile brain, it's fight or flight brain to go, okay, I hate you, but yeah, you do the operation because you are proven over and over again to be 10 times more skillful than this guy, and my chance of survival is higher. So obviously them motherfuckers was crazy, rest in peace. Them motherfuckers was crazy, man. But I admire their commitment to their political beliefs, and rest in peace. And they allow me to illustrate a point. So like I said, man, I ain't really hating these people. I'm loving the people who do the opposite. I'm not hating the people who are like, I'm alright, Jack. That shit don't affect me. Fuck that. I don't hate you for that. That's normal. I admire the people who say, yo, that doesn't affect me at all, but I don't believe it's right, so I'm going to try and do something with my, the privilege I have for not being in that situation. I'm going to try and do something about it. That's not white, middle-aged privilege. That could be the privilege that I have, for example, to be an adult to help a child. It could be the privilege that I have to be a big guy to help a small guy into a room. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You should understand your privilege. But what happened is, and this is how we started to lose the left. What happened was, thank you, I'm getting there finally, honestly. This is no surprise to anybody, but I'm going to say, I think I should have a drum roll. Frankly, the people who were meant to be the defenders of human rights, right, wrong, morality, the left wing of all politics, became the fascists. Whew. Thank God. Fuck it, I said it. It wasn't like a big deal for me to say. I just wanted to say that for ages and haven't got the words out. So the people who are meant to be the defenders, the people who are meant to be defending from the fascistic viewpoints of self-promotion, of, limiting diversity, of gate controlling and stopping access, of stopping people's ability to go further in life. The people who are meant to be fighting against that and creating an equal playing field so not just us, the people who've been held out, but them, the people already in, could all have access. That was the point, right? But they became the fascists. So it went from that's offensive to a lot of people, and therefore, if you don't want to offend a lot of people, that stops people's access, stops people's growth, stops people's prosperity, self-confidence and self-image, etc., etc. It went from, okay, we should start to pay more attention to things that are offensive to people, to we want to control everything. And in fact, it became like a fucking sport. And even worse than sport, it definitely became a fucking job. And this is the actual Achilles heel of socialism. That because the people in socialism believe that the government state should run everything, they frankly are so happy to create jobs that don't produce anything. So once they started attacking all the major, genuine things that were affecting people's lives and causing the problems I mentioned before, stopping access, stopping diversity, stopping people's ability to produce and contribute to society and bring their best to society, so embellish society as a whole. Once they ran through a lot of that shit, they just started finding shit. Let's just keep it real. They just started finding shit. And I'm not trying to say the stuff they found didn't offend anybody. And it's a very difficult judgment call, but I would say it probably didn't offend enough people. And they just started to find shit to the point that it just got fucking ludicrous. They also took a lot of power they now started to have. Now they started to get the swing of the political or the power pendulum. Whereas before they were just complaining, but the people in power weren't giving it the power and they were just moaning. They had nothing they could do about it. When politics moved to the center left, then the power was in the hands of the Tony Blairs and the Obamas of the world. And a lot of their cronies, a lot of the people who set up industries around them were like, yo, well, this is a great opportunity for some get back. That's like payback in I suppose, hip-hop terms. The most middle-class black hip-hopper in the world. That's payback in hip-hop terms. But you know what I mean? There's like, we got a chance for some get back now. Like, you people have been controlling everything and abusing us and, making our lives difficult and stopping our ability to progress. We're going to fuck you up. So there was a lot of payback going on, a lot of get back going on, which again wasn't the point. Now, let me give you the greatest example of truly deserved get back that was not enacted. Post-apartheid South Africa. I don't think there is a liberal, centre-left soul, and quite even a lot of the right-wing soul on the planet who actually expected South Africa to even try, because obviously there are complications and problems there now, to even try to have a transition from apartheid to a non-apartheid state without a serious amount of bloodshed based on the retribution that people wanted to reap or felt they should reap or had a damn right God-given right to reap on the people who had treated them so badly for so many years. Now, having said that, apartheid was just, one that was, again, brought into my circle. I was aware of it as a black male, but it's not the only environment. That was black-white. Then you have the Hutu and the Tutsi, which is another genocide. And then I'm sure if I was the kind of guy to do notes, I could just go all around the world to some of the Baltic states. Chechnya, at least, definitely would be one. Bosnia-Herzegovina. I know I pronounced that wrong. Fuck it. I was trying to be slick. I was trying to be slick, but fuck, I can't pronounce that. Ah, shit. But Bosnia-Herzegovina. Okay. Anyway, my point is I could go all around the world. Northern Ireland. Maybe not to the level of what you saw in Bosnia or with the Hutu and the Tutsi, but most definitely partisan, sectarian, violence, tribal violence, where the powerful players wreaked a lot of, both sides wreaked a lot of hurt and murder on each other. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So at the end of the day, man, I've definitely lost my point. Take a swigger. Bringing it back around, since I've lost that train of thought, it might come back to me. The point I think is me trying to pronounce Bosnia. These are the moments you have to respect Trevor McDonald's. It's a couple of slick news readers, and I like them guys. Yeah, but so at the end of the day, frankly, to put it in simple terms, they took that thing too far. Now that's really difficult, right? Because obviously, I have my boundaries. Like I said the other day, firstly, let me again repeat, I don't hate middle-class white males. I don't hate the Me Too movement. I have respect middle-class white males as a section of the society, which includes black males, black women, white women, LGBTQ, children, animals, fish. I'm trying to say, we all live on this planet together. Just give everyone a chance. Let everyone, give everyone the opportunity to do the best that they can to contribute to the world, the planet that we live on. That's my politics. That's my religion. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So, I don't hate the Me Too movement. I was overjoyed with the Me Too movement. My point was that, again, the element of society, because there is one, who just take things too far. So like I said, the more important part is, who the fuck am I? That's on some mad rapper. But who the fuck is you? Who the fuck is you? There's been no question. But seriously, who am I to tell women that the Me Too movement or some of the members have taken stuff too far? That's the power of Babel. You know what I'm trying to say? But still, I have my opinion. And I was overjoyed at this opportunity to get all of this hidden, heinous, just horrible mistreatment of women out in the public all day, every day, as a man, knowing I was going to bear the brunt of it. And this is my argument with, the white middle class male, the ones who don't want to admit that they have been living in a society that has been built around a structure that gives them advantage. As a man, I took the brunt of the Me Too. I was happy to get the lashings every single day. I mean, for me, I guess the point was, for me, it didn't feel like lashings, because I didn't believe I was part of it in the perspective of I hadn't treated the women that way, or I had never tried to treat the women that way. I didn't agree to treat women being treated that way. So it wasn't lashings, but I understood that, you didn't put men in a very good light. And as a man, there was nothing for me to gain from it directly from the perspective of how women would. But when I said taking the thing too far, I can't even give you examples, but I saw a couple of women, a couple of years after the start of the movement, but what they were kind of basically breaking down, in my opinion, would have almost been the end of sexual relations. And the worst thing about it was, in my opinion, they're fucking liars, because I'm a kind of complex guy from the perspective of, I believe, you might say I'm full of shit, that I stand up for the rights of women, and I always have since a very young man. But yet, at having done that, because I got a t-shirt on that, I got a t-shirt on being the new man, the sensitive man, the metrosexual man. You know what I mean? All that shit. Having the t-shirt on that, I realize it's fallacies. I realize where it's flawed. So now I'm starting to understand the whole, purpose for manhood. Like I said before, I did a podcast on manhood about the pickup artist. Okay, that kind of could be seen as sleazy or tricky or stupid. But like I said, when I start to see what it developed into, which is men teaching men how to be men, because men are needed as being men. Not so much as being new men or metrosexual men, or no, as being men. That's what we were born and designed to do and be, and we have to understand what that was. And as I said, I said in that podcast, what we were being taught by other men was wrong, but that whole movement is now teaching men, how to hold their own space, have a purpose, do their own thing. So again, it's back to Babel, because all of a sudden these two viewpoints are totally polarized. Men are understanding that not being themselves isn't working for them, So we need someone to help us, to guide us to become what we really are meant to be, what we're designed to be. And women being themselves is all good, but then some women take this part of the movement as an attack on any man who's being a man. And the reason I think they're lying is because I don't play that role. And I'm sure I would stake my life on it that those women would have no truck with me when I was that guy. So, you know what I mean? It's just setting people up to fail. That one's a bit complicated, you know what I mean? But my point is, at the end of the day, man, the West was lost because the West became the fascists. Do you know what I mean? I think what I might do one of these days, you know, I might, when things are where I want them to be, revisit all of these podcasts with actually some research and quotes, statistics, examples. Might even do that. Just revisit all of them, update them, and put in some stats and quotes and statistics and examples, you know, to clarify so my ideas are clear. But I know you guys know what this podcast is, and I know you're rolling with me, man. At the end of the day, the West became the fascists. They went from protecting people from fascism to creating fascism, their own form of fascism. And their own form of fascism suffocated not only the people who previously had been some of the worst abusers, which, you know, don't get me wrong, it's fair enough, but, you know, it's like a vengeance move, isn't it? When someone is an abuser, do you take away their power to abuse, or do you have to kill them? Well, what the left decided to do is they decided that they had to kill them. They had to kill this basket of deplorables as opposed to taking away their power. Well, if you look at the rise of right-wing populism, they might have been right. I'm a kind of Arrow season 1 kind of guy. Before Felicity Smoke got to him and told him to stop killing motherfuckers. I'm kind of an Arrow season 1 kind of guy. But, you know, well, my point is, in doing that, they also enveloped a huge swathe of society and condemned them when they weren't particularly doing anything. Because like most of us, man, a lot of people are just going with the fucking flow. Rivers flowing that way, they just sailing downstream. It's working for me more than other people, but I don't even know that because I'm not thinking about the lives of other people. And even though I fall into that category that this GGP motherfucker keeps on talking about, I'm a white male, middle class, heterosexual, I don't feel like my life's that fucking great. Not like I was born and someone dropped €1 million in my bank account and gave me a jail free card and said you can do what the fuck you want. Although, if you were a Libyan, a migrant, looking at that person, you might feel that way. In fact, you know, Libyan money or Ghanaian money or Bangladeshi money, you could be a millionaire. And it could be the fact that half the infractions that you do, you would never get arrested for, when this Libyan or the Bangladeshi or the African, sub-Saharan African would be. So you are born with £1 million in your bank account and a get out of jail free card. But you don't feel like that in your society. So you don't know what the fuck people are talking about. You're just going downstream. And the problem with the left was that it was meant to educate. And that's what I was trying to get to in the Power of Babel. And I know I didn't get it right. The aim was to educate people to understand that. Because I never got it. I was in the UK moaning and bitching about all my disadvantage and about all the abuse and how it was systematic, which it was. All this was true. Then I went to India and Ghana and realized that I was the privileged white middle class version sailing downstream with a get out of jail free card. You know what I mean? So everything is relative, but I was grateful to have had those experiences because it allowed me to put shit in perspective, and with shit in perspective, it allowed me to understand that, okay, I do have a shitload of privilege. Now, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with it myself? It took away all my excuses for not achieving anything. Because I understood how much privilege was on my doorstep, in my face, available at my fingertips every single day. Those experiences just 180'd my whole view of life. I've been spending all my time talking about what I can't do. Don't only give the jobs to that man. Don't only give the money to that man. Don't only give to that man. Don't only give the chance to that man. Don't only give... When you go to a place where people really don't have no money, no opportunity, no chances, no dough, no social security, no emergency loan, no... You're like, rah, what am I bitching about? I got money at my fingertips. I got opportunity at my fingertips. I'm in the world I'm in a part of the world where there is more money per head than in some whole villages in other parts of the world. So I flipped to 180 and I decided to never give myself the excuse to not go forward and do stuff ever again. Never to rely on that crutch of complaining and moaning about what I didn't have, but focus on what I did. And B, try and give back to the people who weren't in my situation because I understood my privilege. So like I said, my offense is I don't hate these, quote unquote, use it again, middle-aged white male heterosexuals. I don't hate them. I expect them to not give a fuck about what isn't on the doorstep and what doesn't concern them. But I just know that it would be useful that with some education, the ones who realized, oh shit, I am kind of privileged, might do something about it. A, use their privilege to do something better for themselves. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I ain't hating on you for that. And for the community, for the country they're living in. And B, maybe understanding with that privilege, be a little bit more, if not giving back, at least be a bit more understanding. But you see, when you grow up in the kind of privilege, like I said, that we have grown in the West and have got no sympathy for migrants, then I know that you didn't get the fucking memo. You just don't get it. Especially if you dig, like I said, just scratch beneath the surface and it's so clear that half of these migrants are coming to the West because the West went in their countries and fucked them right up. So you don't even get the argument of, well, what are you coming over here for, stay in your own country? Well, I would have loved to. If your fucking government, if your MI6 and CIA didn't come to my country and fuck up shit, I'd be happy. Do you know what I mean? But since they did, my country was poor already. I was already in the bottom quartile of the population of the planet. And you just came and made shit worse. Now I can't even live there. The barrel bombs dropping and shit. I mean, slave markets. Open slave markets now. Continuous perpetual rape and molestation. I got the fuck out of here. So, I'm going to blame you directly, although you did vote for the motherfuckers. You didn't stop the motherfuckers, and they're your motherfuckers. But, even if I'm not going to blame you directly, at least have some understanding, some compassion for when I risked my life and the life of my family to leave my middle-class, professionally educated job to jump on a fucking rubber dinghy and try and get out of hell. And when people don't have that understanding and compassion, then you go back to the basket of deplorables because you have every advantage at your fingertips. Not that you don't have any problems, it's that you've got no sense of perspective. And that tells me that you really don't care. And if you really don't care about the lives of anybody else other than just you and yours, get back in the basket. Get the fuck back in the basket. Yeah, that one, the one marked deplorables. Fall back in. But as I said, I'm off topic. But I wanted to kind of explain that a little better because I wasn't happy with the way I broke that down. Little happier now. As I said, it's a complex topic. It deserves more time and attention. But this podcast doesn't get time and attention. This podcast is a freestyle. This podcast is me enjoying myself rambling. That's what it's gonna be. So that's what it is. But as I said, that's how the West was lost, man. The left was lost because it became the thing it was trying to fight against. In fact, I don't think this lyric ever got released, but a former collaborator of mine once wrote a lyric which made me stop in my tracks. And it went, "You fight the establishment to be the establishment." I was like, "Argh! Whoa, say that shit again." So you are. So the man said, I remember that so well. And I was like, wow, because he wasn't dissing me, but he was definitely talking about me. Now, that's not a bad thing. Because you fight the establishment to be the establishment. If the establishment is wrong and your aim is to be right, then you should fight the establishment, which is wrong, to become the establishment, which is right. The problem is, here we go again. Let's get real esoteric and philosophical on your ass. Who the hell knows what's wrong or right? How many times in your life have you been so certain that you were right about something and 10 years later realize that you were wrong? That's where the esoterics of it comes. That's really esoterics, but that's where the philosophy of it comes into. That's where the philosophy of perspective comes in. But my point is, what you certainly should be able to do is realize that if somebody's being oppressive and abusive and abusing their power and restrictive and unfair to other people, when you take their position, you shouldn't do that. That's the key. Do you know what I mean? That's the key. That's the argument about the state of Israel. Fuck, I said it. That's the example that's in my head. But there are probably 100 others. So like I said, there's no point in me climbing all up on that. You can throw the anti-Semitism label at me. I fucking collected that fucker 20, 30 years ago. So, you know what I mean? I'll just dust it off. You know, you have to give me a new one. But my point is, particularly where you've been through a scenario where you can prove how abused and mistreated and how inhumanely you were treated, God knows that shouldn't be the reason or excuse to build us a system or society where you treat someone else exactly the same. That's almost like the guys who are abused by maybe parents who go on to abuse women and try and say, well, I do that because. Fuck out of here. Because is the reason why you shouldn't do that. In every instance, you've got to be better. You got to be better. You got to, even if you know, even if that is the knee-jerk response, and I understand in many cases it is, that's the reason why you don't do it. The person who was abusing you was probably operating on their own fight or flight knee-jerk response anyway. And that's how they ended up sticking, like, you know, your family in ovens or killing them all with cutlasses and throwing them in open graves or, you know, lining them all up against the wall and shooting them all up in you know, all over the world this is happening, man. So if you're a survivor of that, the only thing you can do, this isn't some hippie love will say, I'm making a song up, I don't even know there's a song like that, but it's like some hippie love will save the day shit. This is fucking philosophical metal. Philosophical metal. This is understanding that I can't let what you did to me define me and make me be the same. It's moral fortitude. It's not, I'm not going to imprison you. It's not, I'm not going to kill you, the perpetrators of that, if that's how you feel. Back to Arrow season 1 or The Punisher season 1. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a problem with that kind of vigilantism, you know, at least on TV. My point is, what it shouldn't allow you to do is now go and kill everybody from that demographic and treat them the same way because you want your get back. But that's what the left did. The left got involved in get back. It lost its way. It lost its purpose. And I'm going to come to one last quick point. The worst thing that the left did, in between the mixture of its never-ending push for vengeance for all the wrongs that it thought that the right-wing politics who had controlled the media and our upper echelons of most political, most political houses or whatever we call them in the West for a very long time. A mixture between the need to get back and this industry. This industry of quangos that was created where people were earning stupid amounts of money, make their whole living just looking for shit, literally looking for shit to be outraged about, so that they could ban it and try and improve it and make money out of it. That industry still goes on, by the way. In between the two of those, the West not only lost its moral compass, it lost its fucking common sense. I said that wrong. Let me repeat that. In between its aim for vengeance and the quangos that were created, the industries, the employment, the high-paying jobs that were created to fight these and to look for and find new ways, new abuses, new things to be outraged about. The left not only lost its moral compass, it lost its common sense. It lost its common sense. And what it did is it allowed the right-wing politicians, even worse, the extreme popularist right-wing politicians, to control all the common sense arguments. So what I find now, and this is obviously, partly because I'm becoming more middle-aged and more right-wing, but still, a lot of the time when some idiotness is going on, it's the right-wing popularists who have actually locked off. That's madness, that's stupid, that's inefficient, that's ridiculous, it should be done this way. And what you find is if you want to engage with the political party who is going away from that kind of extremism, not just of politics as in left-wing extremism, but of stupidity, impracticality, policy for policy's sake, policies that affect, for huge amounts of money going to policies that affect 10, 15, 20 people, if 20,000 people, but have a huge negative effect on 200,000 people. If you want to get away from that, because that is not sensible management of a population. It just fucking isn't. You can't legislate for every fucking person. I can't have legislation that works just for me at the expense of 200,000 other people. In the same way, like if you have a family and there are 5 of you, you can't do everything just because one child likes it. That's why they have that whole idea of this child is spoiled and they get everything they want and the other children feel hard done by. You got to legislate for what makes sense for the whole of the family. And sometimes people are going to get unhappy and feel sore. That's what it has to be. You have to get the median. But these quangos were making money out and getting a career, making a lot of money and making a living out of now legislating for the ultra minorities because they could. And I don't mean that because I'm part of a big minority. Like I said, I want everybody represented, but you just have to use some kind of common sense. But the common sense went out the window when people were making money from it, as it often does. So what happens is the right wing now took the common sense pound. So every time I hear some common sense arguments, it's always coming from the right wing. So the left have lost. The common sense arguments used to be left wing. To me, it was always common sense to allow more people to be included in society because society gets more skills. That was just common sense. It wasn't just because I was excluded or felt excluded or found it harder to get into certain positions. It was just common sense that if I was the best person, and I have been on many occasions, the best person to do a particular job, but I wasn't given it because it was given to somebody else because of some other kind of favoritism, that didn't help society. That's why I'm a meritocrat. Because if I'm not the best person for the job, I don't want it. Fuck affirmative action and fuck racism. Same difference. Just create as level as you can a playing field and let everybody go ahead and see who's best at that job and give them that job. That's how society gets the best results. But the West, the left, if we call the West the left, they totally lost the fucking common sense middle ground. It used to be common sense. Their policies used to be common sense. It wasn't just some namby-pamby left-wing liberalism. LGBT people are feeling bad and are hard done by. No, it wasn't about that. It was about accepting the people in your society and making sure they felt comfortable in your society, which everybody has the right to. And when they were feeling comfortable in your society, whether LGBT or black or Southeast Asian or migrants or whatever the demographic was, once they felt comfortable, they would contribute to your society so you wouldn't get ghettos of places where you can't go to. That you're scared that your car breaks down in this area because you've created an environment where people feel excluded. But lost the argument. They've lost the common sense now. All the common sense is coming from the right. It scares me now that when I'm listening to, I hear about a policy or, something along those lines that is just fucking stupid. And every time I hear the argument against it, it's coming from right wing and sometimes right wing popularism. Because the left has been lost. The left has been lost. So when Vladimir Putin says it's the end of liberalism, well, he's right. I mean, he's right on so many levels. Firstly, Putin, he was the torchbearer. Then we got Brexit. Then we got Trump. Then we got Italy. Then we got, I'm not doing this in chronological order. So then we got Bolsonaro in Brazil. Then we got Hungary. So right-wing populism is kind of running shit right about now. And I think it's just warming up. We've got a lot of right-wingism moving into Germany, which is very shocking because Germany is always aware of its past in a way that England never is. England thinks that it never did anything wrong and just brushes all that shit under the carpet and keeps telling everyone that it's the most liberal country in the world, even though you don't even have to go back 30 years to see fucking atrocities in Northern Ireland. Do you know what I mean? But England will tell you some shit. Whereas, Germany, when I've been there, are the most acutely aware of their past. Spain's pretty good as well. Or a lot of Spanish people are acutely aware of their colonial past. I don't need people to feel shame. I need you to be aware. You got drunk last night and beat up a stranger? Of course, shame is bad. Shame would be good. Recompense would be better. But more importantly, I need you to be aware that last night you got drunk and beat up a stranger. So you need to know that you can't drink too fucking much and go stumbling around the road, because it will happen again. So awareness for me is key. We can worry about the recompense later. But going forward, awareness. And Germany has always been uniquely aware. As I was living in Spain, I met a lot of people who are very, very aware of their colonial past and how it affected the world. England always be like, oh man, we built you roads. Oh yeah. We were dying to get 500 years of colonialism, to get a couple of fucking railways that were built primarily to transport our shit out of our country. And to be given to you for free. Yeah, man, that was like the deal of the fucking century. Yeah, So at the end of the day, man, the West. Why I keep saying the West? The West. Why I keep saying the West? So that will be released on the 22nd of now. So the left was lost, man. That's how the left was lost. Completely and utterly. They lost not only the moral high ground, but they lost the common sense high ground. For me, the common sense high ground is the one that really hurts me the most. I guess because I'm a reasonably logical guy. And I appreciate that people could have different moralities, but very few people want to live in a world without any common sense. We need things to be organised efficiently so we could get to work, to have our children taken care of, have our medical facilities work. The common sense aspect of running a country, of a government, is essential to our day-to-day survival and comfortability, as well as prosperity. And the left lost the common sense argument. And it's horrible. The best example I have is where I'm in Spain. There's this new party called Vox. And what I've said about Vox is that if you listen to their economic policies, they all make sense. And, it's, again, it ain't no secret. I got to start quoting when these all hip-hop song titles, but I can't remember who made that one now. But it ain't no secret that Spain as a whole, as a country, is riddled, has an endemic problem of corruption, and always has. Only a few years ago, the president, prime minister of the country, was forced to resign because his name was in a ledger of secret payments that were, corrupt payments that were made. On some fucking Tarantino gangster movie shit. The accountant had the ledger, and everyone was trying to get the ledger, and people were getting shot, and someone had to go and do a fist fight, blah, 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 because we had to get the ledger from the accountant because that had all the names, and if that fell into the wrong hands, all these politicians were going to go down. But that fucking shit happened in Spain. maybe minus the fist fights and the shooting, but they found all the names in the ledger. And the prime minister of the country. Spain has a real problem with that. It ain't no secret. It's well documented. It also has a real problem with inefficiency because it's had primarily socialist governments for most of its, I believe, I might be wrong, but I get the impression, I always get the feeling that post-dictatorship has had a lot of socialist governments. So it has that whole kind of, public works mentality. And the public works mentality is what the government's employing. So why have one person doing it efficiently when you can employ 10? And then you have to find work to justify the employment of 10. So rather than having one person do it efficiently, you have 10 people doing it inefficiently because it creates the need for their employment. And I've experienced that, just trying to get everyday things done here. So that's my opinion. But it's not just my opinion, it's the opinion of a lot of Spaniards. I thought it was a Geary thing when I got here. I thought it was just like, oh, well, I'm just a dumb migrant and I don't know how things work. And I'm sure if I knew what was going on, I spoke better Spanish, this would be more efficient. Until I found myself back at the same queue for the 16th time with natural born Spaniards. I just realized, no, that's just how it is. That's how it is for everybody, Worse for me because my language and my nationhood, but actually everyone else was suffering the same shit. It was the system. But this party box, their economic policies, their economic views, at least on paper, look great. But the problem is, along with that comes all the putrid, backward, regressive homophobia, racism, and sexism. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of amazing to me, I guess. Everything out back to quoting rap songs. Cycles, life rolls in cycles, new is old, but I'm not no psycho. That's the great Chuck D, who could forget that. But maybe it's just in cycles, so maybe we're just going through the cycle and we're waiting for another kind of centralist, true central liberal government to start reappearing. But at the moment, if you want common sense from your political party, nowadays it seems you have to, what comes with them through the door, through common sense, logic, good execution of good ideas, practicality. What comes along with that is racism, sexism, and homophobia, and anti-Islamophobia often, and anti-migration. That's the package now. So if you if I need to vote for somebody, if I was even going to vote, I'd have no choice, because the people who could actually run the country, people who have the ideas of run the country efficiently, which would make my day-to-day survival and living standards comfortable. Also want to institute racism and all those things I told you, racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, all that shit. And the people who don't want to do that, all the policies are nonsensical, and B, want to institute their own form of racism to get their get back at the people who they think, to get their get back at the basket of deplorables, as I like to call them, because I like that term. I know, I'm a hypocrite. Tough shit. If you heard me say that, you've been listening to this for at least 40 minutes. So too late, fine. But that's how the left was lost. I could go into it, I could call names, I so just can't be bothered. But at the end of the day, I saw it coming, man. I said it in the Power of Babel. I saw it coming, man. I wrote a poem about it. I saw it coming out fucking God knows what, 15, 20 years ago. And it still saddens me to see it. And I suppose I'm waiting for, all the people who are willing to accept all the sludge and shit that comes with common sense, which the right-wing popularists are bringing, find a party somewhere near the middle who can still deliver that to them without all of that moral sludge, which is what I like to call it. And the left, get rid of all of the left-wing radicals. Hypocrite! I am a former radical. Well, what the fuck? Get rid of the people who basically just want, who want to make the point for point's sake. That's some of it's point for point's sake. Like I said, the people who want to scream at me because I don't know how to talk to somebody who defines themselves as gender non-gender neutral. The people who want to scream at me like I'm a criminal because I don't know something. And if they had the power, it would probably criminalize me because I don't know something rather than educate me. The left used to want to educate people. And then, if people don't want to, abide by certain rules, or don't want to make an effort, fine, there would have to be sanctions if you are abusing or, mistreating people. That's fine. But now with a lot of the left, you just have to know everything. Because my particular gender politics of me, this little insignificant speck in the fucking whole universe, this little insignificant speck is now so fucking important that I assume that you must know everything about the way I think it should be seen, defined, known, treated, behaved, etc., or you are a fucking scum. And it just isn't like that. Nobody can live under that scrutiny, not even them. And that's the point. So that's where the stupidity comes from. You have to have some kind of common sense. Have to have some kind of middle ground where we understand that for the majority of us, from the majority of backgrounds, this is a good starting point. And if we want to be nice to each other, we can put some extra effort in. And if we fall below that starting point, we're going to have to bring some legal sanctions. But that common sense has gone out of the left, man. That shit, she gone. That fucking shit's gone. She gone. So at the end of the day, left is lost, man. And we're going to just have to live through the right-wing populism for however long it goes. And just one other thing I'll say while I'm here. When you know something and you know it, but then it still takes 4 or 5 years and then one day it just hits you again like it just comes to you like a new. Just recently the other day, I was looking at some Donald Trump shit, man, whatever he was doing, wherever it was, G20, some shit like that. And I knew from day one that he was the Republican shock and awe candidate. Now, I never read the book. I like to know about concepts, but I'm a jack of all trades and I've got no time. So I didn't read the book, but apparently there was a book or something along about, shock and awe politics, which was kind of typified in the Reagan and the Bush era, where they'd send us, the hard man politician in, and he'd be like, fuck all that shit. Fuck all that liberal shit. We doing this, and super extreme. So it was very clear from the day of his election, in fact, from his campaign, that he was a shock and awe politician. And like everything else, they're used for different reasons. Sometimes they're just used to soften up the base, to scare the shit out of people. So they're like, oh, we better vote for X because Y's are crazy. And sometimes they really want them in power because they have some shit they need to do, like start a war with Iraq or some shit like that. And they need a hardliner who they can, stand behind that kind of policy. And people will believe, oh no, that really was that motherfucker because he was so hardline and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? But it was just recently that I thought to myself that, just for the first time, Donald Trump just became like comical, like a caricature. He's like a caricature shock and awe candidate. See, when Bush did some shit, I was like, yo, he means that shit. I was like, he means that shit. He's not in it. When Reagan did some shit, like, he means that shit. He's not in it. He means that. But Trump, because of, what it is because he's like a perfect shock and awe character because he's fucking schizophrenic in his behavior. In his language, he'll say one thing and completely contradict himself the following day. He's like the fucking gaslight king, king narcissist. But then if you see it you see it often enough, a bit like when someone falls out of the control of a narcissist, you take a step back and you go, did I used to believe that shit? Because you just said this and now you said that, you said this and you said that. You're just full of shit. And I think I had that experience around the time of the YouTube. I don't know what it is, what he did. I don't know what it was, but I just thought to myself, dude, you're just a caricature of a shock and awe character. And I think people are going to get bored of you pretty soon now because your ability to shock and awe us gets diminished every time you do it. So when you started, the whole world was in arms. Oh my God, we can't have this crazy, indecisive, polemic, seemingly schizophrenic through his personality, tweeting government policy. No, we can't have this. But like 3-4 years later, it's normal. And now when you do it, it's like, yeah. Making that shit, man. Yeah. You're going to build a wall. Yeah. You're going to go to war with North Korea. Yeah. You're going to go with war with Iran. Yes, you're going to bring fire and fury. Yes, you're going to, it's like, bullshit. And if we start to call it, other countries will start to call it. And I think that's when America's going to catch their ass. So, I don't know if that's going to be the beginning of the undoing of popularism because Trump didn't start it. He just surfed the wave. The only way I think right-wing populism is going to be undone is for the left to find itself and stop playing identity, party, minuscule politics and come back to the center where the policies make fucking common sense for the majority of the people and they affect. And the morality, again, makes common sense and brings back equality, not vengeance, not witch hunting, not anything along those lines, just common sense. That it creates inclusion and opportunity and freedom and liberty for as many people as possible. That's the only way that the populism is going to go because the left is lost. There is nothing to fucking combat populism. So Putin's a whole nother example, man. I may never get another chance to do this, so I've got to be so careful when I say it. Oh fuck. I'll leave Putin. I'll leave Putin for another day because if I try to squeeze what I want to say about Putin in right now, it won't come out right, and it deserves proper time and consideration. But he did make that quote that liberalism is dead, and he's on the nose, man. Liberalism killed itself. Liberalism allowed versions of the same heinous, extreme lunatics that were in the fucking fringes of the right wing. It allowed them into its politics and dragging it to the far left wing and killed itself. And for now, we're going to have to live with the result of that. Till something else is born out of the ashes. So this is the GTP. Thank you for listening. Let me get some stuff off my chest. I hope it's been entertaining. Probably wasn't been informative because I don't research shit. But I hope it's been at very least entertaining, something to leave your hour. And check us out again, man. We're going to grow this. There are plans to move this in some other directions. This is just always been a warm-up. Thank you for tuning into GGP. And the podcast will be back another day. We out.
It gaff till a gaff. It gaff till a gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff. Illy with the till a gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. I'm illy with the till a gaff.
I don't give a fuck.
With the till a gaff. We ain't got no time for you haters. I do not respect anybody sitting behind a keyboard trying to belittle anybody, making them feel bad about themselves.